If a person who is liable for registration applied for the want of registration within 30 days from the date of need arises, what is the effective date of registration? It is known to you people, but again I am presenting with the help of example as a revision. This point I already referred. Again I am referring here. Example. Example 1. Mrs. Hans and Company threshold limit for registration crossed on 10th January. Application for registration on 25th January applied. GST department granted certificate of registration on 31st January. Now, whether they applied for the want of registration within 30 days from the date of need arises? Yes, sir. In that case, effective date of registration is the date on which they cross the threshold limit, the liable for registration, namely 10th January is the effective date of registration. Sir, from 10th January till the date they obtain the certificate of registration, namely 31st January, in between they might have been supplied the supply of goods or services by issuing only the invoice but not the tax invoice. But they are liable to pay GST from 10th January. In that case, what is the fate of those invoices? Hey, Mr. Registered person, once you obtain the certificate of registration being a registered person, you call back the invoices which you already issued from the date liable for registration till the date obtain the certificate of registration and revise that invoices with the tax portion showing separately and issue. That is called what? Revising of invoice is well possible, my dear friends. Such a revising of invoice is allowed, but not revising of return is permitted. Revising of return not permitted, revising of invoice is well permitted. Such a process of revising invoice should be done within a period of 1 month from the date of obtaining the certificate of registration. Further, sir. Example 2. What happened if I applied for the want of registration after the expiry of 30 days from the date need arises to go for registration? In that case, the date on which certificate of registration is granted to me is the date of effective date of registration. How to understand? Look here. Mrs. Raj and Company threshold limit for registration crossed on 10th January. Applied for registration on 25th February after 30 days from the date of need arises. In such case, department granted the certificate of registration on 28th February. Effective date of registration is 28th February because you have not applied within 30 days from the date of need arises to go for application for the want of registration. Now please come back. Furthermore, presenting my dear friends points here. Whether we have centralized registrations, centralized registration concept under the GST. In the recent past, centralized registration concept has been brought into force under the GST only one specified category of taxpayers, specified category of persons, better to say, namely foreign embassies, foreign diplomatic missions in India, approved international organizations in India. If so, for them, registration under GST is not by granting GSTIN, goods and services identification number, not granting. To them, unique identification number is to grant, UIN. Unique identification number is to be grant. For them, centralized registration is permissible. Foreign embassy, US embassy, New Delhi, US embassy, Chennai, US embassy, Mumbai, US embassy, Kolkata. In 4 metros, 4 US embassies are there. For example, rest of the part of India also is there. Foreign embassy of US embassies are there. All these US embassies can have one UIN number. Yes, it's called centralized registration. For any other taxpayer, centralized registration not allowed. You have to have state-wise or union territory-wise separate registration. Under one PAN number, multiple registrations, we call them distinct persons. You are aware of it. Now come back. We got registered under the GST. The process of registration we understood. Now I am presenting in front of you. Cancellation of registration is possible? Well possible. A registered person himself can apply for the want of cancellation of his registration, namely we called as deregistration, or GST officer will cancel the registration of a person if he is not worthy to hold GSTIN number. Like that department feels, then department officer also can cancel the registration, or otherwise legal heirs of a deceased person can apply for cancellation of registration. Let's start first with cancellation by the registered person himself. Section 29 of the CGST refers this cancellation of registration by the registered person himself. When the business has been discontinued, business has been sold or transferred to the newcomer, or the business has been on account of succession transferred to the legal heirs, or otherwise there is any change in the constitution of the business. What do you mean by change in the constitution of business? So far we are the partnership firm, A, B, C are the partners, A, B, C and company. Now we want to convert into ABC Private Limited. Thereby the PAN number of the firm will be invalid. Therefore, in the given case, ABC Private Limited should obtain a separate PAN number, resulting that separate registration is required. Therefore, the PAN number of ABC and company is going to be invalid. Therefore, GST number also be invalid in the name of the partnership firm, and the partnership firm should apply for the cancellation of registration and go for new PAN number and go for new registration. If there is a change in the business constitution, further turnover not at all going to exceed in the near future the threshold limit for registration. Before Corona, my turnover being a trader in the Union Territory of Delhi, 40 lakhs exceeded. Let us say prior to the Corona, 80 lakhs it was. That time I got registered under GST in the state of Union Territory of Delhi. After the Corona, my turnover fallen down to 4 lakh. Drastical reduction from 80 lakhs to 4 lakh. And in the near future, there won't be any possibility to going to be touch the threshold limit of 40 lakhs. In that case, can apply for the want of deregistration? Yes, you can apply for cancellation of registration called deregistration. Voluntarily registered person also can apply for the cancellation of registration if they are not required for holding of that particular registration. Further referring here, when you apply for cancellation, immediately it can be cancelled. Immediately can be cancelled. You are applied for cancellation. Department will keep your GST number under suspension. Step is suspension. Under the suspension period, this person not required to submit the return, not possible to submit, not required to submit. I applied for cancellation today, and from today onwards, my registration number shows in the network portal under suspension. I am not required to file the return. I am not eligible to claim refund. Nothing. Department, after ensuring that everything is proper to grant the cancellation order, then at a later date, department will issue cancellation order. From that date onwards, cancellation took place. So the first step is a suspension followed by cancellation. Further, my dear friends, can the department officer cancel my registration number? Yes. But in general, there must be opportunity of being heard will be given. In general, there must be opportunity of being heard should be granted, obviously, without which generally cancellation of registration not takes place. But certain specific extreme cases, even the department officer today is empowered to cancel the registration even without giving an opportunity of being heard. Yes, the supreme power is there, but not in all cases. Only a high risky taxpayer case only. Now come back. Look here. Cancellation by registered cancellation by a GST officer. Cancellation of what? Cancellation of registration of a taxpayer by GST officer under section 29 subsection 2. The list is as follows. If the registered person has violated any of the GST provision or laws, the department officer can cancel the registration of a particular registered person. From 1st October 2022, there is an amendment taking place. A composition registered person has not furnished the return for a financial year beyond 3 months from the due date of furnishing of his said return, as against earlier provision which provides non-filing for 3 consecutive tax periods. What do you mean this? As you are aware of that, a composition taxpayer who required to file the return quarterly once, GST CMP 08. What is the due date of filing the return for the quarter April, May, June? For the quarter 18th of July. July, August, September. July, August and September. For that quarter 18th of October. October, November, December 18th of January. January, March 18th of April is the due dates. Now, in a financial year 23-24, let us say April, May, June quarter in the financial year 23-24, April, May, June, first quarter of the financial year, return not filed beyond 3 months from the due date. April, May, June, due date is 18th of July. From the 18th of July, for a period of 3 months, the return for the April, May, June not filed, your registration automatically get cancelled. System itself will cancel this. Further, from 1st October 2022, a normal registered person paying the GST other than under composition scheme, who is required to file the return monthly. In that case, every month return. Return means here what? GST 3B meaning. GST 3B return, monthly filing by 20th of the following month from the end of the relevant month. In that case, monthly return filing taxpayer not furnished for a continuous period of 6 months. In case of regular taxpayer, April, May, June, July, August, September, 6 months, continuously not file the return at all, registration will get cancelled. Or a person who opted QRMP scheme, quarterly filing the return, monthly paying the tax, is a QRMP, not a composition scheme, QRMP. In that case, not furnished for a continuous period of 2 tax period in case of QRMP scheme. That means April, May, June in the financial year 2024 not file the return for the quarter. July, August, September for that quarter also not file the return, continuous 2 quarters. Then whose registration also get cancelled. This is very important points, my dear. For a composition scheme taxpayer who is not filed the return in a financial year beyond 3 months from the due date of furnishing the said return. In the case of normal taxpayers, regularly monthly filing the return, not file the return for a period of 6 months continuously in a financial year. Even in a financial year or otherwise, continuously 6 months. That means 3 months 23-24, balance 3 months 24-25, continuously for 6 months, then sufficient. Like that, for a QRMP scheme, 2 quarters continuously not file the return. In that case, their registration will get cancelled. A voluntary registered person who has not commenced any business in the 6 months from the date of registration, for a period of 6 months, not at all commence the business, but voluntarily got registered, whose registration will get cancelled. If the registration is obtained by fraud method, the proper officer has the right to cancel the registration with retrospective effect. Further cancellation of registration. If a registered person avails input tax credit in violation of the provision of the section 16 or rules made thereunder, or if a registered person furnishes details of outward supplies in the form GST 1 return for one or more tax period in excess of outward supplies declared in the GST 3B. I shown GST 1 return my liability to pay the GST 12 lakhs. While filing the return GST 3B, I shown only 2 lakhs my liability. Means what? 12 lakhs my output as liability shown, and which has been passed the credit to my recipients, and I am going to pay only 2 lakhs. So huge amount of difference. GST 1 return more than that of the GST 3B tax payment. In that case, registration will get cancelled when it is for one or more tax periods. If a registered person violates provisions of newly inserted rule number 86 capital B. What is 86 capital B? I refer to you by saying that, sir, this rule has been supported now with a section 49 subsection 12 of the CGST, where you have more credit than that of your tax liability. In that case, you have to pay minimum 1% of output tax liability through electronic cash ledger, where your turnover exceeds in a month 50 lakhs of rupees, other than exports, other than exempted supplies. In that case, for those taxpayers, they should pay minimum 1% of their output tax liability through electronic cash ledger, even though they hold in their books of accounts input tax receivable is much more than that of the tax liable to pay. If you not followed or honored this provision, your registration may liable for cancellation, provided that the proper officer shall not cancel the registration without giving an opportunity to be as an opportunity of being heard, meaning thereby department officers, hey mister, please show the cause, why should not I cancel your registration? So opportunity of being heard should be given. Because of these reasons, your registration is going to cancel. To reply, opportunity of reply is provided, is called as opportunity being heard. Without giving that opportunity being heard, cancellation should not take place. However, no opportunity of being heard also be introduced, even without informing the reason for cancellation, cancel the registration of a particular registered person. Department officer with the best interest of the revenue in abnormal cases, high risky taxpayers case, to protect the interest of the revenue by giving directly stating that your registration has been cancelled, order can be passed. Highly risky assess cases. Where it is means where the proper officer has reason to believe that the registration of a person is liable to be cancelled, he may, without affording the said person a reasonable opportunity of being heard, suspend the registration of such person with effect from a date to be determined by him. Where the GST registration of a taxable person has been suspended, neither the taxpayer nor the recipient nor the transporter will be able to generate e-way bill during the period of suspension of registration. Under section 54, that person cannot ask for refund of GST if any. Further money offense. Suspension of registration in special cases. Registration of a taxpayer can be suspended in the following cases: where there is a significant difference or anomaly between outward supplies of the GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B, or otherwise where there is a significant difference or anomaly between GSTR 2A. Now 2A now has been replaced as, I can say that this should be replaced as GSTR 2B, where part 1, part 2. Part 1 allowed credit, part 2 not allowed credit. So like that. So where there is a significant difference or anomaly between GSTR 2B and the GSTR 3B. GSTR 2B input tax credit taken, let us say 2 lakh rupees, while submitting the GST 3B, making the payment of the GST, I have taken the credit 12 lakhs. GST 2B credit allowed is 2 lakhs, but I have availed the credit by aiding the GST 3B. I have availed the ITC of 12 lakhs. In that case, mismatching. If you did so, department definitely will issue the notice to you. You have to respond by giving clarification, reconciliation, by justifying your stand. Otherwise, your registration will get cancelled. This should result in any contraventions to the provisions of the Act or rules made thereunder. Further, to such suspension, an intimation shall be sent to the taxpayer in his email ID requiring him to explain within 30 days of as why this his registration shall not be cancelled. Such an opportunity of being here will be given in the given case. Restrictions in case of suspension of GST registration. A registered person whose registration has been suspended can neither make any taxable supplies nor make any claiming of refund as the case may be. Such person shall not be required to furnish any return under section 39 of the CGST. If the removal of the suspension takes place, removal of suspension before completion of proceedings, the proper officer shall now have the option to revoke the suspension of registration anytime during the pendency of proceedings for cancellation, where the taxpayer honestly given reply with full satisfaction of the department officer with the best interest of the revenue. Department officer will revoke the suspension of the registration before passing the order of cancellation of registration order. So cancellation order will be dropped. Further, my dear friends, legal heirs of a deceased person also can apply for the want of cancellation of the registration of a deceased person. In case if sole proprietor who passed away, his legal heirs can apply for the cancellation of registration. Suspension registration. Suspension first step, cancellation is second step. Difference between the suspension and registration I have given with the best interest of the academic, where the examiner may ask you differentiate between the suspension of registration and cancellation of registration. In that case, suspension means what? During the pendency of the proceedings relating to cancellation of registration filed by the registered person or before cancel of the registration by the proper officer, the registration may be suspended for such period and in such manner as may be prescribed. Cancellation, where a person who has been submitted an application for cancellation of his registration no longer liable to be registered, or so moto cancellation by the department officer, proper officer shall issue the order of cancellation of registration within 30 days from the date of submission of the application for cancellation, or within 30 days from the date of reply to the show cause notice as the case may be. Within 30 days time period from the date of a suspension, cancellation can be takes place. This point, myths and facts, is only a particular information of the CBSE. They said we are not simply going to cancel the registration of a registered person unless by giving an opportunity of being heard. When we will cancel the registration without giving an opportunity of being heard means exceptional cases, huge amount of tax evaders cases, fraudsters cases, habitual evaders cases, and department fed up with the taxpayer. That time, to protect the interest of the revenue, the department will cancel the registration even without giving an opportunity being heard. Otherwise, in all other cases, opportunity of being heard should be provided to the registered person before cancellation of his registration. Now bringing to a notice, my dear friends, procedure for cancellation of registration under GST. Practically I am bringing to a notice. First and foremost, my dear, you being a taxpayer, apply. Step 1. Application for cancellation in the form GST RAG 16 through network portal. Submit to the concerned jurisdictional officer through network portal. Application for cancellation of registration. Form GST RAG 16. Department verify. Step 2. If they found any discrepancies, show cause notice can be sent in the form GST RAG 17. Please show the cause. Why should I cancel your registration? Or otherwise, department sometimes come forward to cancel the registration. In that case, GST department officer, before cancelling the registration, opportunity of being heard will be given. In that case, department so moto issuing form GST RAG 17. Show the cause. Why should not we cancel your registration? Because you have not filed the returns, or because your GST 1 return liability more than GST 3B return, or your GST 2B not matching with the GST 3B. In that cases, show cause notice issued to cancel your. Why should not we cancel your registration? Like that also can issue directly GST from GST RAG 17 as the case may be. Then the taxpayer should reply. Step 3. Within 7 days of receipt of the show cause notice, the taxpayer should reply from GST RAG 18. Yes sir, I want so and so reason because of the cancellation. Or department asking for cancellation. Sir, don't cancel my registration, sir. I am going to be submit the return, sir. I am going to give the clarification difference between the GST 1, GST 3B, GST 2B, GST 3B differences. I have reconciliation. I will provide to you, sir, with your satisfaction, sir. Like that, you have to reply. As the case may be, department may ask you, why should I cancel your registration? Directly from GST RG 17. No sir, I applied for cancellation. Department asking, why should I cancel? Therefore, I am replying them, as the case may be. Step 4. Can drop the cancellation proceedings and pass the formal order from GST RAG 0, RAG 20. What is this? Sir, department send the notice from GST RAG 17 directly to the taxpayer. Hey mister, please show the cause. Why should I cancel the registration? I reply to department within 7 working days in the form GST RAG 18. Don't cancel my registration, sir. I have my clarifications. I will submit your satisfaction. I submitted here, sir. So department after satisfied, no, this is a genuine person. Though the difference between the GST 1 return, GST 3B return, GST 2B return, GST 3B return differences, he has clarifications. He submitted. Very good. I satisfied. Can drop the cancellation by issuing the form GST RAG 20. Or otherwise, step 5. Here, step 5. Form GST RAG 19, which is order of cancellation, within 30 days from the date of the receipt of the application, or from the date of the receipt of the response in the form GST RAG 18 to the show cause notice, as the case may be. From the date, within 30 days they may cancel registration. When the application made for deregistration by the taxpayer, cancel the registration. Or department officer issue the notice, show the cause, why should I cancel? Department officer not satisfied with the response made by the taxpayer, then proceed to cancel the registration within 30 days from the date of receipt of the application, or from the date of a response to the show cause notice, as the case may be. Within 30 days from the date, cancel the registration certificate. Here, further presenting here, there are some amendments has been taken place here in the recent past. Amendment in the rule number 12 of the GST rules. Grant of registration to persons required to deduct the tax at source or to collect tax at source. As you are aware of that, TDS deductor or TCS collectors who are going to pay to department the TDS amount or TCS amount, for which they should have to have a separate registration irrespective of their normal registration. This point I referred under section 24 of the CGST. Now, this particular rule number 12, sub rule number 3 has been amended to specify that TDS and TCS registrations can also be now be cancelled by the proper officer on a request made in writing by a person to whom such a registration has been granted. This provision was not there earlier, now has been introduced from this particular notification number 26 oblique 2022 central tax dated 26/12/2022 onwards. This facility has been granted. Earlier, for a normal taxpayer only can apply for deregistration. A TDS and TCS collector who has been obtained separate registration, for them there is no provision to apply for cancellation. Now has been introduced it. As simple as that. Further, my dear friends, procedure for revocation of cancellation of registration, well possible. Procedure for revocation of cancellation of registration. What do you mean? How to understand this? Sir, cancellation order has been issued from GST RAG 19. You know, 19. From GST RAG 19. Namely, order of cancellation. From GST RAG 19 issued. Cancellation of registration taking place. That person whose registration has been cancelled, he now wanted to have the same registration number because he feels that time this GSTIN number is a lucky number, for example. Or otherwise, this GSTIN number is very important for me because I have given this in so many places and where I have input tax credit, like that. He realized the importance. Then he can apply to department for the want of same registration number, namely, sir, please revoke, plug back your cancellation order. Can I request to department whose registration has been cancelled? Yes, allowed. Procedure should be followed. What procedure? Look here. A taxpayer whose registration has been cancelled, he should apply for revocation of cancellation. Step 1. Application for revocation of cancellation within 30 days of cancellation of registration. In the form GST RAG 21, you have to apply. But one thing is very clear. Here the law of the land here says that when you apply form GST RAG 21, you ensure that what for your registration earlier cancelled, non-filing of return, non-payment of tax. You have to file the returns. You have to, what we can call here, pay the tax. Then apply for the cancellation or revocation of cancellation of registration. Application for revocation of cancellation within 30 days of cancellation, form GST RAG 21. Application for revocation of cancellation. Department officer will verify. Within 30 days he applied. No sir, not applied within 30 days sir, from the date of cancellation of the registration sir. In that case, whether he obtained the permission for extension. What do you mean that? Extension time limit is permissible now for filing the application for revocation of the cancellation. On sufficient cause being shown and for reasons to be recorded in writing, we extended this time period of 30 days from the date of the cancellation of the order. Within 30 days not applied for the revocation of cancellation, further 30 days can be extended by the additional commissioner or the joint commissioner as the case may be. On being sufficient cause shown, the commissioner of central tax further can extend 30 days time period to submit the application for revocation of cancellation of registration in the form GST RAG 21. That means initial period of 30 days without any prior permission. With the permission granted by the joint commissioner and commissioner, further 30 days. Further 30 days. Furthermore, 30 days can be granted by the commissioner for filing of the revocation of cancellation order, form GST RAG 21, application for cancellation order. That means for a maximum period of 90 days, one can apply for the cancellation, revocation of cancellation of registration. But this 30 days time period at the mercy of the Joint Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner. Further 30 days is at the mercy of the Commissioner. If they are not granted, 30 days only. Time period to apply for revocation of cancellation. Form GST RAG 21. Application for revocation of cancellation. Step 2. Revoke cancellation of registration within 30 days of application of receipt of cancellation, form GST RAG 22. Department officer satisfied. Okay, goodbye now. You proceed now henceforth, properly file the return. Do not mismatch the returns and done like that. That officer satisfied, and revocation of cancellation within 30 days of the receipt of the application in the form GST RAG 22. That means the earlier registration number will continue. Otherwise, non-satisfied cases, here, for unjustified reasons, shall issue show cause notice, form GST RAG 23. Hey mister, you applied for the revocation of cancellation of registration RAG 21. Please show these and all, give the clarifications. Then if you are satisfied, I will revoke your cancellation. Like that, a show cause notice can be issued, form GST RAG 23. You have to reply to that. Step 4. Reply shall be filed within 7 days of receipt of the show cause notice. Reply should be in the form GST RAG 24. To the form GST RAG 23 show cause notice, reply form GST RAG 24 within 7 days of receipt of the notice. Further, department may satisfied or department may reject. If they satisfied, they will issue form GST RAG 22 by revocation of cancellation within 30 days of receipt of your reply. In the form GST RAG 24, they will pass the revocation order, revocation of cancellation. If they are not satisfied further, then step 5, shall reject the application for revocation of cancellation of registration by passing an order in the form GST RAG 05. Form GST RAG 05 is nothing but order of cancellation of your application for revocation of cancellation, meaning thereby whatever cancellation is intact, your registration is cancelled permanently. You want further registration, apply afresh form GST RAG 1, and from the beginning you come. It is up to the department officer to grant the certificate of registration. Here one important point is there, sir. Amendment taken place. A new provision has been introduced. Second proviso in rule number 21, capital A, sub number 4. Automatic revocation is important to note. There may be a short note question in the examination. That means this process not required to be followed. This much lengthy process is not required to be followed, because automatic revocation, in case of a cancellation of registration, when there will be automatic revocation of suspended GST registration upon furnishing of pending GST returns if GST registration was suspended due to non-filing of returns. Due to non-filing of returns, generally non-payment of GST. If there is a case, you file the return by payment of the GST. In that case, whatever you not file the return, you now paid and filed return. In that case, your cancellation, namely your before cancellation suspension taken place, that suspension will be removed and automatically your registration number is become valid registration, where you can avail the input tax credit, can pass the tax as input tax credit, or you can apply for the want of refund wherever you require to obtain refund, or you will be in a position to issue e-way bill also wherever required to issue e-way bill, because a person whose registration has been suspended or cancelled, he cannot able to issue the e-way bill. So automatic revocation takes place only when there is a suspension of registration due to non-filing of returns. Now I file the returns, all the return I filed properly, but belatedly. Wherever the tax liable to pay, I paid with the interest wherever required to pay, and penalty also paid. All has been properly has been done. In that case, my suspension will be automatically will disappear, and my registration will be pop up in the network portal as a valid registration. Further, my dear friends, I am bringing the conclusion part to the registration of the GST chapter. Sometimes before you very much of aware of that, I told you under the schedule 2, under the schedule 2, serial number 4, in that sub point 3, going concern going to be disappear, going concern is going to be wind up. A organization registered person whose registration has been cancelled, the going concern is not going to go with any other person. That means it is supply of goods. Organization permanently closed, a registered person ceases to exist, then in that case his business assets is a supply, namely deemed supply, supply of goods liable to pay GST. However, exception is there. If the person whose business sold to a newcomer, a transferee taking over the business of transferor, going concern of transferor is going to be continue in the name of the transferee. In that case, not supply of goods, it is supply of services. If so, it is exempted supply of services under the notification number 12 oblique 2017 of the central tax. Once I told you already, you are aware of that. That time I told, sir, if the case where the going concern going to wind up, in that case the business assets are treated as supply of goods. How to arrive the GST thereon will be referred to you in due course, sir. I will refer this in the registration chapter. When there is a cancellation of registration, when there is a cancellation of registration and the going concern not going to go with the other person name, in that case going concern going to wind up cases, the business assets is a taxable supply of goods, sir, where you will able to pay GST, sir. I said that I will refer on GST chapter. I said now I am referring this. If the going concern going to wind up, cancellation of registration taken place, the business assets is deemed supply of goods liable to pay GST, which I am presenting here for a kind consideration. Section 29 subsection 5 of the CGST. Every registered person whose registration is cancelled shall pay an amount by way of debit in the electronic credit ledger or electronic cash ledger equivalent to the credit of input tax in respect of inputs held in stock and inputs contained in the semi-finished goods, or inputs contained in the finished goods which is held in stock, or capital goods or plant and machinery on the day immediately preceding the date of such cancellation, or the output tax payable on such goods, whichever is higher. To that extent you have to identify, calculated in such manner as may be prescribed, provided that in case of capital goods or plant and machinery, the taxable person shall pay an amount equivalent to the input tax credit taken on the said capital goods or plant and machinery, reduced by such percentage points as may be prescribed, or the tax on the transaction value of such capital goods or plant and machinery under section 15, whichever is higher. Understandably not understands. Don't worry, I am there with you to explain with a lollipop manner this particular provision. में लेस है कुछ भी नहीं है very simple matter. What is the provision says? Assume a scenario. My name is Royal Limited. Assume I'm a Royal Limited. Register provision just today, namely on 6th October 2023, my registration got cancelled. I mean to say that my going concern going to wind up because I am going to close down my business permanently. My cancellation taking place. The meaning of that cancellation means I am disappearing from the GST provisions. In that case, the stock immediately preceding the date means on 5th October, stock on which GST credit compare with the stock on which GST payable. Among the two, whichever is higher, that amount I have to pay through electronic credit ledger or by way of a electronic cash ledger, as the case may be. Capital goods. Declare the life of the capital goods as 5 years. As 5 years. Declare the asset of the capital goods 5 years. Format of invoice. That means 60 months. So for how many months? Sir, 55 months, sir. Okay. Now left over 5 months. For 5 months, create how much? That are GST payable on such capital goods. Whichever is higher, that you have to pay to department. As simple as that. Example. Don't worry at all. Example. Mrs. Royal Limited have been applied for cancellation of registration and the same is effective from 15 November. So 15 November cancellation registration. In that case, following information is given on 14 November. That means immediately preceding the date of cancellation. Inputs 1,44,720 lying in the stock 12% GST. Inputs costing 77,184 are in the process, work in progress, GST 12%. Finished goods valuing 4,82,400 in stock. The cost of inputs in it 50%, GST 12%. Royal Limited also purchased the capital goods for 2 lakhs, paying the GST 28%. The invoice dated 10th July. GST payable on inputs and finished goods as on the date of cancellation is 2,79,104. It is a GST payable on output supply. Means the stock available no deemed supply of goods on which GST payable 2,79,104. GST payable on capital goods is 16,000 because the capital goods deemed supply. If so, GST payable applied 16,000 came. How much Royal Limited has to pay as an amount by way of electronic cash ledger cash as on 14 November. That means there is no credit in the books of Royal Limited available, but stock only available. Whatever credit they are on available utilized. No credit is available. They have to pay to electronic cash ledger. How much liable to pay to electronic cash ledger on account of cancellation of the business, cancellation of the registration of the business. In that case, simple my dear, apply 1,44,720 multiply by 12%. GST na 12%. How much GST comes? 1,44,720 multiply by 12%, which is 17,366. 40 paise below 50 paise. Leave it. Thereafter, work in progress. In which stock how much? 77,184 multiply by 12%. So 77,184 multiplied by 12%. How much comes? 9,262. Thereafter, finished goods 4,82,400. 4,82,400. In that stock how much? 50%. So here 4,82,400 in which 50%. How much comes 50%? 4,82,400. 50% is equal to 2,41,200 on which GST 12%. How much comes on which GST 12%? So 28,940. So this total amount of GST how much? This total amount of GST how much? This total amount 17,366 plus 9262 plus 28,944. How much you said, Amma? 55,000? 55,572. So this much of amount coming as a credit and utilized also. Now you have to pay. How much to pay means this amount or the stock available on which GST payable. Stock available GST how much here? 2 lakh 79,104. That means 55,572 or 2 lakh 19,104. 2 lakh 79,104. Amount that which is higher amount. 2 lakh 79,104. That much you have to pay to electronic cash ledger. So whichever is higher, so is the amount higher to pay. With regard to capital goods comes into picture. What is the value of the capital goods? 2 lakhs. Capital goods here is 2 lakhs, is given 2 lakhs. If so, on which GST 28%. So on 2 lakh GST 28%, how much comes, my dear? 56,000 credit. This credit will be divided into 60 months because 5 years. So before that, I will apply the here instead of like this. I will multiply. How many months they have used so far? Invoice dated 10th July. 10th July they purchase. When they cancel the registration 15th November. That means July, August, September, October, November. 5 months they used. Balance out of 60, how many months left over? 55 months credit, not allowed. That means 56,000 multiplied by 55 months divided by 60 months. How much comes here? 56,000 into 55 divided by 60, which is 51,333. This much of amount credit not allowed. Compare with the GST payable on such capital asset is a deemed supply. GST payable how much? Capital goods. GST payable on capital goods here they given. How much they given? 16. Amount that whichever is higher. Which is higher? 51,333. That much you have to pay to electronic cash ledger because they won't have any credit with them. Therefore, 51,300 they have to pay to department. In the case of capital goods. Sir, if the capital goods are already purchased, by the time of cancellation of registration, 5 years already over, sir. Then, in that case, that capital asset on which GST payable, because it is deemed supply, na? That much GST has to pay off. Not required to compare. If it is within 5 years, compare the leftover number of months that credit, compare with the GST payable and transaction value of the capital goods, whichever is higher. Already 5 years over, sir. Now 7th year, sir, cancellation taken place, sir, registration cancellation. Then the asset value is, the asset is there, sir, in the organization, is deemed to be supply on which GST payable. That much you have to pay to department. No need of comparison. Plus 5 months, 5 years already over. Within 5 years only, this comparison will come. As simple as this. Section 29, stop section 5, where going concern is going to wind up the business assets. It has deemed supply of goods. With this, I can say that, my dear friends, your registration chapter under the GST is concluded. Thank you, my dear friends. See you in the next class. Tomorrow, not evening, today Friday, today evening no class. Tomorrow Saturday, we have evening class. Sunday, we have evening class. 2 hours. 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday evening class we have. Sunday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. evening we have the class. See you by tomorrow at 7 p.m. Thank you, my dear friends. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome.